Welcome to this introductory series on IFS. In these next few videos, I want to really introduce the theory, the model of IFS. How does IFS look at the psyche? And how does IFS explain why people do certain things, feel certain ways, and think certain ways about themselves and the world? That's what these next few videos are about. I hope you enjoy. Before I want to introduce the IFS model of the psyche, I want to give a very broad picture of how many other models and maps of the psyche work. Because most maps that try to give you an orientation of why different people are different and how their personalities are structured, they work a similar way. They kind of look at us as one personality. Then they try to distinguish different types of personality and create groups of where people are alike, or how to describe these different types of personalities you might meet. One example of a theory like that could be the Big Five. The Big Five basically looks at people's personalities as having different scores on 5 dimensions of the personality. So people can be open or not open. They can be neurotic or not neurotic. They can be extroverted or introverted. And they each have a score on those dimensions. And based on that, the Big Five tries to describe your personality. So you're extroverted, neurotic, etc., etc. And they would say that's your personality. That is what helps us to determine how you will react in certain situations. Another model that does this would be the Enneagram, that tries to give or tries to analyze people based on one of the 9 Enneagram types. And it would say, oh, you're a 6 or you're a 5. And that would then mean a certain thing. That would mean your personality is structured in a certain way. The IFS model works fundamentally different. Rather than looking at a person as having one personality, IFS would say people have many parts. And a part can be kind of viewed like a sub-personality. So each of us has many parts. And each of these parts, each of these sub-personalities are different. And each of them can have their own perceptions, can have their own beliefs, their own feelings, and their own behaviors in the world. So rather than looking at us as having one personality that determines how we are in the world and how we will behave in a certain situation, IFS would say, no, you have different parts, each part with its own personality, and depending on which part is active in you, which part is in the lead in you right now, you will react to situations very differently, and you will behave, feel, and even perceive the world very differently. And I think we all kind of intuitively get this because we feel differently, we think, act differently, and we even perceive differently when we're on a relaxing walk rather than doing our taxes. There is a different way of being, there is a different way of feeling and acting in the world. And that's what IFS would call, there's a different part active. And I think we also intuitively get this in other situations, and one of them would be being triggered. So you're having a day, you're feeling okay, it's a nice day, and then somebody says something, and everything shifts. Suddenly the whole feeling shifts, the way you perceive that person, the way you react to them, all of it shifts at once. And IFS would say that's because a part has become active in you that now feels, sees, acts that way. So it's that part that has come up. That's what IFS calls a part. Another example where you might experience this is having inner conflict. So holding an apple in one hand and holding chocolate in the other hand and being like, which one should I eat? And there's one voice in you that knows the apple is the right choice, but there is another voice in you that definitely wants that chocolate, and they're having a battle in you. So that would be 2 parts active that are fighting over how to be in the world, how to act. And with each come different feelings, different perceptions, different values. One of the really important basic principles and basic foundations that IFS and the model of IFS rests on is that each part has a certain role and a positive intent in our life. Now, what does that mean? A role means a part has something it brings to your psyche, has something it brings to your life, something it's doing for you. Each part has one role. Some might be similar, some might be very different, but each part has their own role. And each part, no matter what it does in your life, has a positive intent, a positive intention. That means each part wants to do something good for you. Each part wants to do something good for all of us, no matter what it does in the world. Now, going back to that example of chocolate, apple, both of these parts have a positive intent. Both of these parts want to do something good. One might want to be healthy. The other wants that gratification, that sweet taste of chocolate. I want it. Both have a positive intention. They want you to feel good. One through being healthy, one through through eating that chocolate now. But they both have that positive direction. And at the heart of that positive intent of each part is that each part wants to avoid pain and create pleasure. Now, if we want to get a little bit more technical, that pleasure can be defined as psychobiological well-being. So each part wants us to be well, psychologically but also biologically in our body. Now, different parts might have different definitions of what that psychobiological well-being is. And even though some parts will create the opposite of well-being, and why they do that, we get into that in the next videos. They have that positive intent. And that's one of those pillars of IFS that we will refer back to throughout these videos. So it's so important to remember that, which is why I'm kind of hammering it in right now. As the really short summary of video 1, we're all made up out of different parts. Each part has their own perceptions, feelings, beliefs, and behaviors. And depending on which one is active in us, we will feel, behave, think, and perceive differently.
You never know what's around.